Morning.
Morning. Morning.
Today, we're going to go on a little trip. So the first thing I want you guys to do, close your eyes. Imagine that you're at the airport. You're walking through the crowd. You finally get up to the ticket counter, get your tickets. You get over to the gate area. They finally call your seat. You hop up out of your seat, you walk up there, you give them your ticket, and you walk onto the airplane. They have gone through the entire little spiel about making sure that you have your seat belt fastly buttoned, that you know where the exits are on the plane, and you're taking off. Go ahead and open your eyes. Right now we are flying. We are up in the air. We're going to take a little trip here today. Kind of start off, I'll show you guys where we're going to be flying. First, of course, we are going to start, if it'll work for me. There we go. Going to start off right where we are. Right here, Lansing Middle School in Lansing, Kansas. You guys know this place, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're taking on to where the story begins. It's a little town that you guys might know called Chicago, Illinois. Okay, after this, we're going to be flying down to, I forgot the fort. Fort Benning. We're down at Fort Benning right now. And this is where one of the main characters is going to be doing the majority of their training. After that, they fly all the way over to Saigon for their short trip then to Benoit. And that's where the majority of this story is going to take place that I'm going to talk about today. Any of you have an idea what the title of this story might be? Because I'm sure some of you have read this William Allen White Winter.
The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle?
Nope, it's not the True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. Actually, this story is called Cracker, the Best Dog in Vietnam. If you have not read this story, this is one of the William Allen White Winters from last year, which means that you guys could read this for the William Allen White Party at the end of the year. So make sure that you do that. Okay, so currently, you guys know that we're in Benoit, Vietnam. They covered only about 100 yards in 20 minutes, which Rick had heard was pretty standard for a hot area in a heavy jungle. Boy, he never would have guessed it would be such hard work just studying his dog. Once in a while, she would stop to meet eyes with him. He knew that the entire company was staring at them. Then, after one such meeting of eyes, she abruptly sat, almost as if Rick had commanded her to do so. Rick felt so proud. Come on, turn the page. So shocked, he retched. He hurried to her, but made sure not to pass her. He knelt down. What you got, Cracker? What you got? Cracker knew exactly what "ja" meant. She turned to look at the ground in front of them. They then turned back patiently to Rick. Rick stared at the ground. He didn't see anything but a bunch of dead leaves. Slowly, half an inch at a time, he raised his eyes, searching out a tripwire. He did that twice, but didn't see a wire. He didn't know what to do. He didn't see anything out of the ordinary. He even tried sniffing the air as if that might help. He wondered whether he should turn and signal Raphael to come forward. He knew everybody was watching him and Cracker, waiting for a signal from him. What should he do? All right. This time he started out about 10 feet in the air, then slowly moved his eyes down, searching for the tripwire. He still didn't see anything. He looked at Cracker. She met his eyes, then turned her nose toward the ground and sniffed lightly without moving her body. He stared at the ground. Then he sighed. One leaf. Really only one. Didn't quite match the surrounding leaves. He looked around and spotted a bush deeper in the jungle. The leaves of that bush matched the one on the ground. It could mean nothing. It could mean only that a leaf from deeper in the jungle had fallen off and over time had migrated to right here. Cracker turned to the ground again and sniffed over it, then turned to him. Rick gestured Raphael forward. Raphael walked quickly to them, but Rick, that kept him from moving past Cracker. Raphael said, "I don't see anything. What does she got?" "I'm not sure. Look at that leaf. It looks out of place." Raphael looked dubious, so Rick said, "She smells something too." Raphael moved back to tell the lieutenant about it. Rick petted Cracker and whispered, "Hope you got something, girl, or we're about to be embarrassed." In a moment, a soldier whose name Rick didn't even know knelt on the ground beside him. "I don't see anything," the soldier snapped. Rick snapped back, "People see what they want to see. Dogs see what they see." That was a line Rick had heard Cody use sometimes. Humans saw it in wholes, not in pieces. They saw a total picture, colored by what they believed. Dogs use their senses to see all the details, uncolored by expectations and beliefs. "Fall back, dog handler," the soldier commanded. Rick and Cracker walked back and turned to watch the soldiers as the soldier studied the leaves. In a moment, the soldier gingerly cleared away a couple of leaves, then a couple more. Rick saw the leaves were covering a hole in the ground. The soldier hurried back to confer with the lieutenant, who sent word to Rick that it was a punji pit. Rick asked permission to look at it. He and Cracker stepped forward and stared into the pit. It was a tiny thing, about a foot deep and 2 feet square. Sharpened bamboo sticks stuck up from the ground and angled upward from the sides. He heard that sometimes guys jumped out of helicopters, landed right in one of these pits. The points of the sticks were brown, probably covered with human feces, so they would not only stab you, but infect you as well. Cracker glanced into the pit. It looked like one of those pits she had seen back in wherever they had been before. Fort Benning? She shook herself, and she could sense that something hanging on her belly, and something was stuck in one of her paws. She couldn't feel it exactly. She just knew something was there, and she was still thirsty, and her stomach felt uneasy. She glanced at Rick. The glance made her forget the thing hanging from her belly, and even her thirst. He was staring right at her. "Good girl," he said. She pushed her nose under his hand for some petting. He petted her, but not enough, so she pushed her nose under his hand again. Rick removed the Cracker's leeches while someone destroyed the pit. He used his bug juice rather than a cigarette so that if Cracker moved, she wouldn't get burned. He fingered bug juice on the back of the creature on her paw, and it fell right off. Same with the one on her belly, and a third found inside her thigh. He wanted to blast the leeches with his rifle. Instead, he touched the juice to the leech on his cheek, and it too fell to the ground, fat with his blood. He watched his blood trickle out of the leech. Then he felt all up and down Cracker to see if there were any more. Rick knew Cracker had just earned some respect points. He could see it in the way everybody was looking at him and his dog. He knelt beside her and said softly, "Good girl, good girl." After Rick gave Cracker some water, he turned to her and said, "Search, Cracker, search." Cracker turned to the trail and lifted her snout, pulling the scents to the back of her nose. She tilted her snout a bit more to catch a particular scent. She pricked her ears slightly. There was a slight suggestion of something, but she couldn't quite capture it. She waved her nose left and right, trying to find a place where the scent was stronger, but she couldn't quite get it. She took a few steps forward. The scent got stronger, and it seemed to be associated with the sound. She rotated her ears toward the noise. It sounded like, no, it was gone. She glanced at Rick and kept walking. She didn't know how much time passed. She just knew there were many smells, and some of them were very strong. But the one she focused on wasn't very strong. The wind gusted and she stopped. There it was. Now it was strong. She raised the hair on the back of her neck. A little more sunshine than had managed to reach through the canopy. Rick liked that. Less creepy. Still, his heart beat hard when he saw the hair on Cracker's neck rise, but he didn't feel sick this time, just extra alert. Cracker pointed a nose at some thick bushes about 30 yards away. Rick turned to Raphael and nodded 3 times. They decided that would be the signal when Cracker gave a strong human alert. The slack man sent word down the line. Rick saw soldier after soldier whisper to each other until word reached the lieutenant. Then soldier after soldier sent word back up. Raphael signaled Rick to fall back. Rick wanted to be there, the one who would get to take the prisoner, if there was one, but he knew it wasn't his job. Then, as he watched, the soldiers crept toward the bush. He felt a brief worry that maybe somebody innocent was hiding behind the bush. Cracker followed Rick back as several other soldiers moved forward. She felt pretty excited. She knew there was somebody behind those bushes. It was exactly like so often before when she and Rick had been in that other place. She recoiled slightly at something in the air. It was familiar from the other place, but she forgot the word Rick had called it. Her eyes stung a bit. Rick knelt next to her and murmured, "Tear gas." Then it seemed like the whole world was shooting and shouting, "Bam! Bam! 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 Get him!" "Did you get him?" "Got him! Watch out!" Rick hit the dirt, holding Cracker down. Then sudden silence, broken when someone in front shouted, "Medic!" This story was taking place during the Vietnam War. This is a historical fiction story. The author did a lot of research to be able to tell you what it was like for these dogs to be taken from their families like Cracker was, because the family could no longer have pets because father had lost his job in Illinois. They had to move into an apartment that would not allow dogs, and so they donated their prized German Shepherd to the Army. And that's where Cracker went down to Fort Benning. It was trained to go and search out these punji pits, search out these Viet Cong, and that's what they were called, Viet Cong, soldiers that were trying to spread communism into the southern Vietnam. If you want to know any more about it, of course I'm going to make you read it. Of course I picked the spot that is going to make you guys wonder what happened from there. I did that on purpose.